You post a picture and within minutes, 50 people commented on it.
This dress is so pretty.
I love the sunset.
Hashtag so aesthetic.
You look amazing.
You look tired. You look tired. You look tired.
It replays in your head over and over. You start questioning yourself. Do I actually look tired? Was it a bad photo? Did everyone else think that too? And suddenly, that's all you can think about. Why does one negative comment erase 49 positive ones? Why does your brain zoom into what went wrong instead of everything that went right? Why do you spend the whole day thinking about that comment, even when the situation is irrelevant? It's called negativity bias, and it might be controlling your thoughts more than you think.
Welcome to My Brain Hates Me.
A podcast where we lovingly dissect your brain, find all the chaos inside, and somehow make you feel better about it.
I'm Dia.
And I'm Samira.
And I'm Shanze. And today we are talking about something that I am personally a victim of. Something that has ruined my Sunday nights, made me reread a text 40 times looking for hidden hostility, and once convinced me that even the slightest late reply meant someone was planning to never speak to me again.
Relatable. We are talking about negativity bias.
Your brain's deeply committed belief that bad things are just more important than good things.
Spoiler, they're not. But try telling that to your amygdala at night.
Okay, so negativity bias. Formally, it's when negative events have a greater impact on us than equally intense positive ones. Like the same size, same stakes, yet the bad one still wins.
Every single time.
Yes, every single time. And I think what surprises people is that equally intense part. Like, we're not talking tragedy versus a compliment.
Right? Like, it's not even close to fair.
Exactly. So, can you guys guess why our brains built this in?
I think evolution, right?
Yeah, back in the Stone Age, missing a threat could kill you, but missing a beautiful sunset, you'll be totally fine.
So your brains learn negative equals urgent and positive equals optional?
Yes, and that got so deeply baked into our neurology that it still runs today. Except now that threat is like a passive-aggressive email from your teacher.
Exactly, which your amygdala treats exactly the same as a predator, like a full panic mode over a K text.
So my brain isn't broken. It's just running prehistoric software on a 2026 problem.
Okay, so this isn't just a personal inconvenience. Negativity bias shows up basically in every corner of society.
So I'd assume there'd be a lot in media and politics.
Yes, like news outlets have known about negativity bias forever, whether they've really named it or not. Like fear-based headlines consistently get more clicks, more engagement, and more shares than neutral or positive ones. Like local community does something kind, you get crickets. News study says something you love might be dangerous, that would be viral in like 20 minutes.
That makes so much sense. Like even in politics, negative campaign ads are measurably more effective than positive ones. Because our brain treats negative information about a person as more revealing of their true character than positive information. One scandal can undo years of goodwill.
Relationships, research shows it takes roughly 5 positive interactions to emotionally counteract 1 negative one. And that's called the 5-to-1 ratio. So one bad argument doesn't just feel significant, it's actually more neurologically significant than 5 good days.
Wait, yeah, that actually makes sense. It's like consumer behavior. Like when I was booking a hotel last summer, everything looked perfect. 5-star reviews everywhere. But then there was that one bad review, and I immediately started second guessing it.
Oh my god, so did you end up booking it?
Nope. I was a bit too skeptical, and it was a little bit too expensive to risk it.
Exactly. That's negativity bias. And it's also prominent in healthcare. So, like, patients are more likely to remember a dismissive or cold interaction with a doctor than a warm one. And that affects whether people actually come back, whether they follow through on a treatment, or whether they really trust that system at all.
So negativity bias isn't just making you spiral over a text. It's shaping news, politics, healthcare, and every relationship you have. It's everywhere.
Now we're going to be interrupted by an ad. We'll come back shortly.
A word from our sponsor.
Are you tired of waking up at 3 a.m. replaying that one thing you said 5 years ago? Does your brain treat a K-text like a 5-alarm emergency?
Introducing Brighter Brain Hypnosis, the only hypnotherapy service designed for people whose brains simply will not calm down. Our certified hypnotherapists will guide you subconsciously away from the spiral and towards a place where one comment does not ruin your entire week.
Imagine receiving criticism and simply processing it like a normal person.
Revolutionary.
Brighter Brain Hypnosis. Let us rewire the drama.
Hypnosis is a real and recognized psychological technique used in therapeutic settings. Side effects may include mild optimism and reduced catastrophizing. Consult a real therapist if symptoms persist.
Okay, let's actually get into what's happening in the brain because I think this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like once you really understand the biology, it just makes so much more sense why you can't just think your way out of this.
Exactly, like it's not a mindset thing, it's structural.
Exactly. So to start, let's explain the brain regions. So first, the amygdala. It's basically your brain's threat alarm. It's this almond-shaped structure
Ooh.
deep in the temporal lobe, and its whole job is detecting what's important emotionally, especially fear and danger. And it fires fast,
Whoa.
like before your conscious mind even has registered what's happening. That's why you flinch before you think. And the key thing is it has what researchers called preferential processing for negative stimuli. It activates more intensely and stays activated longer for negative experiences and positive ones of equal intensity,
Which is kind of wild to me. Like, it's not just a feeling, it's measurable.
right? And then that connects to the
The
hippocampus.
memory center, right?
Yeah, so the amygdala flags something as emotionally significant, and the hippocampus encodes it deeply. They're literally working together to make the bad stuff stick. That's why a humiliating moment from grade 7 plays in full HD in your memory while most of your happy Tuesdays have basically vanished.
Full HD? That's so real. Okay, wait, so is the hippocampus just completely at the mercy of the amygdala then? Like, does it have a say?
I mean, kind of. The hippocampus is the storing, but the amygdala is basically deciding how important the memory is. So when the amygdala is calm, the hippocampus can encode things more evenly. It's just that the amygdala is so much more louder for negative stuff.
So the amygdala is like the dramatic friend who decides what's a big deal, and the hippocampus just files it accordingly.
Literally, yes. And the third region, the ACC,
Yeah, the anterior cingulate cortex. So this one essentially monitors for conflict between what you expect and what actually happens. So when something negative and unexpected occurs, the ACC would send a strong error signal to your brain that demands cognitive resources. And it essentially forces your attention onto the negative event and keeps you there until the brain feels like it's actually been processed.
so your brain literally won't let you move on until it decides you've dealt with it enough.
Exactly. And then chemically, two big ones. First, cortisol, your stress hormone, released when the amygdala triggers a threat response. Short term, it would sharpen your focus, like survival logic, but chronically elevated cortisol actually impairs hippocampal retrieval, making it harder to access positive memories while leaving negative ones more accessible.
So when you're already stressed, you're chemically set up to remember bad over good?
Yes! Which explains so much about your Sunday.
Literally. And the second one, norepinephrine. That's the arousal and vigilance neurotransmitter. It works alongside cortisol to keep the brain in a state of heightened alert after a threat has passed. That's why one bad interaction can leave you wired and on edge for hours. Your biology keeps you in something went wrong mode after the moment is over.
Together, these regions and chemicals create a closed loop that genuinely prioritizes the negative. Not because you're weak, not because you're anxious, but because your brain is executing a survival program that is millions of years old.
LOL.
So biology tells us why the bias is built in, but here's where it gets interesting. Culture tells us how strong it actually is.
Which I didn't even think about until we started researching this. I assumed that everyone experiences it the same way.
That's actually where Vygotsky, a Russian Soviet psychologist, comes in. He argued that cognition is a cultural phenomenon. We don't just think, we think using mental tools passed down by our society. So basically, our culture gives us frameworks for interpreting events, and those frameworks shape how we process negativity.
And this maps onto a really important distinction in cross-cultural psychology, which is analytical versus holistic processing.
So, analytic processing, most common in Western individualistic cultures, focuses on individual objects in isolation. Binary logic, either or thinking. You either succeeded or you failed. The comment is either a compliment or a criticism. Less wiggle room.
Woo!
Which honestly sounds exhausting.
LOL.
Ha 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 ha! It kind of is. And then holistic processing, more common in East Asia and collectivist cultures, focuses on context, relationships, and the whole picture. It's more comfortable holding contradictions. Something can mostly be good and slightly flawed at the same time. Both and instead of either or.
So, less woo. And research shows this actually affects negativity bias. In cultures with more holistic processing styles, people tend to integrate negative and positive information together rather than letting the negative dominate.
So does that mean that negativity bias is weaker in those cultures?
Not weaker exactly. It's still there biologically, but its intensity and expression are shaped by cultural tools you've been given to interpret your experiences. Vygotsky would say that society around you has literally handed you a cognitive toolkit through language, education, and stories you've told about failure and success. And those tools either amplify your negativity bias or give you ways to contextualize it.
So the bias isn't just hardwired. The hardwire exists, but the culture writes some of the software.
Okay, theory is great, but let's talk about what researchers have actually proven.
Because this is the part where it stops being an interesting idea and starts being, this is literally documented into peer-reviewed research.
Okay, I have a good one. So, my study happened in 2019. Norris and colleagues published a research in social cognitive and affective neuroscience examining the neural patterns of negativity bias in healthy adult participants. So, ordinary people, no diagnosed psychological conditions, so this actually strengthens how generalizable the findings are.
So they wanted to see this in a typical brain, not a clinical one?
Yeah, exactly. The method involves showing participants positive and negative and neutral images, while measuring brain activities using both fMRI, which tracks blood flow to identify activating regions, and ERP, brain scans, which measures electrical signals to capture the speed and intensity of neural responses. Using both simultaneously gave researchers unusually high resolution. They could see both where and how fast the brain was reacting.
That's actually really sophisticated methodology.
I know! And the results showed that negative stimuli produce stronger activation and longer lasting neural responses than equally intense positive ones. So, basically, what we've been saying so far. They also found that participants higher in neuroticism, which basically means people who are more prone to stress, anxiety, and overthinking, have significantly amplified negativity bias in their scans, meaning individual differences affect how strongly the bias operates.
So it's not the same for everyone?
Yeah, the conclusion is that negativity bias is a measurable neurobiological pattern localized in brain structures, particularly the amygdala. It's not a personality flaw, it's an actual brain function, and that distinction matters.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Oh my god, yeah. Okay, so I have another study. Baumeister and colleagues in 2001 published a landmark paper reviewing a broad body of research on the principle that bad is stronger than good. And they examined how negative effects, criticism, and feedback consistently affect people more strongly than positive ones of comparable magnitude across relationships, performance, emotional well-being, and decision-making.
Comparable magnitude, same size. Samara, would they be equal?
No, never equal. Their findings show that negative experiences are not only felt more intensely in the moment, but they're remembered longer, they influence future decisions more heavily, and they require more positive experiences to emotionally counterbalance. And one piece of negative feedback does not just sting more than one compliment feels good, it actively persists in shaping how you see yourself going forward.
So, does that mean negative feedback is basically useless and, if anything, harmful to give to somebody? Like, does it just make things worse?
I mean, not necessarily useless, but it has to be handled in a very careful way because the weight of it lands so much harder again, and negative feedback needs to be way more intentional than positive feedback. Like context, tone, framing, all of it matters more than people really realize. And the conclusion was that negativity bias isn't situational, it's systematic, cross domain pattern. It explains why one bad comment on something you worked really hard on can genuinely overshadow a room full of positive reactions from people. The math just doesn't feel equal because neurologically it just isn't.
Okay, so if we already know that this shows up in brain activity, what part of the brain is actually responsible for it?
I have the perfect study for this. I just encountered this study yesterday. It's by Elizabeth Phelps and colleagues, and it examines the role of the amygdala in emotional memory, specifically how negative and fear-related stimuli are stored differently than neutral or positive information.
This one connects so well.
Exactly. Using neuroimaging and memory recall tasks, they found that the amygdala doesn't just react to threats, it modulates memory consolidation in the hippocampus. When the amygdala is activated by something emotionally negative, it essentially sends a signal to the hippocampus saying, store this more carefully. The result is that negative, fear associated memories are encoded with greater detail, retrieved more easily, and are more resistant to fading over time.
So the emotional intensity of the experience literally changes how it gets stored?
That's exactly the conclusion. It doesn't just feel bigger, it actually is bigger in long term memory, which is why even small negative events can feel disproportionately significant compared to larger positive ones. Phelps' work was foundational in showing that the amygdala isn't just a passive alarm, it's an active participant in writing your memory, with a clear bias towards the negative. Alright, we're not leaving you without a survival kit. So, what do you actually do about this? Awareness helps, but it doesn't rewire anything by itself.
Okay, so the first tip we're going to give you guys is physical positive reminders. Write down affirmations, compliments, things you've received, things you're proud of, and put them somewhere you quite physically cannot avoid, like your mirror, your phone wallpaper, a sticky note on your laptop. And this isn't just motivational. The reason it works is that you're forcing repeated, unavoidable exposure to positive information to counteract the selective attention your amygdala creates. Your brain wants to skip the good stuff, so you literally just make it impossible to.
That is really smart. I have another one that's really similar. It's called the 3-to-1 rule. So for every negative thought you catch yourself fixating on, consciously think of 3 positive ones. Not just suppress the negative, because suppression backfires, but to rebalance what your brain is focusing on. Over time, this actually helps shift your emotional baseline by building new neural pathways for positive processing. You're not just pretending that bad things didn't happen. You're just giving your brain more positive things to work with.
Yes, and honestly, another big one is limiting your exposure to negativity. Like, if you're constantly consuming negative news or scrolling through social media, you're basically feeding that bias. Your brain just keeps collecting more negative information to focus on. So being more intentional about what you consume can actually make a huge difference.
So, if one small negative thing has ever completely taken over your thought, that's not you being your dramatic. That's your brain doing its job.
It's ancient survival technology running in a modern world it was absolutely not designed for.
The line is gone. The passive aggressive comment is not a predator. And now that you know that, you can start to catch it. The next time you get a bad comment on your post, remember there are more positive comments to think about.
Write something good about yourself somewhere you'll see it. Your hippocampus needs the backup.
I'm Via.
And I'm Samira.
And I'm Shanze. Thanks for tuning into My Brain Hates Me, where we take brain science seriously and ourselves not at all.
We upload every Friday, so make sure to check the next one.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye!